Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Tom back today with another video, and back today giving you loads of information about the new creator class system. It's known as the creator class system 3.0 or the 10-pick system, and what we actually see right here, this is the kind of it in its basic form, and this is pretty much what we've seen in the years before, in the years gone by, and this is what we're familiar with. So I'm just going to go through it very quickly because this is pretty simple for you guys. You can choose the primary weapon and the primary attachments, the secondary with attachments. You can pick perks, and you can pick a lethal and tactical grenade. So that's the kind of basics of it, and that's pretty simple. I'm sure most of you guys know exactly what all those things are. And now I actually want to bring wildcards into the equation. So right here you can see the 3 wildcard boxes which are down there at the bottom. And these wildcards are a brand new feature to the game that they say are going to let you kind of bend the rules. They're going to let you bend the rules in the following way. So you can actually see those yellow boxes right there. And if you actually place an item in those yellow boxes, you're actually going to be forced to play a wildcard. So there's actually going to be 8 wildcards, which I'm going to go through now. So the first one is going to be primary gunfighter. That allows you to have a third primary attachment. Second one is going to be secondary gunfighter. That's going to allow you to have a second secondary attachment. You're then going to have 3 perk related wildcards. You can have perk 1 greed, perk 2 greed, and perk 3 greed, and they're actually going to allow you to have 2 perks in their respective categories. Next we're going to have danger close, which is actually going to allow you to bring in 2 lethal grenades. And finally the last 2 that aren't actually represented by yellow boxes on screen right here. The first one is tactician, and this is going to mean that you can actually have 2 different tactical grenades. So for example, you could have a stun grenade and the shock charge, and that's actually going to mean that you actually have to not have a lethal grenade. And the other one is actually going to be overkill, where you can bring 2 primary weapons. So those are the 8 wildcards, and I think they're actually going to be playing quite a big role in the upcoming game. So after you understand the wildcards, you just have to pick a combination of 10 different items that you actually want to have in your class. So I thought we'd just look at a few examples now from what we saw in the trailer and just kind of go through and explain what's going on in them. So firstly we have this one right here, and this is a very basic one. This is pretty much what we've seen in previous games. So have a primary and a primary attachment, have a secondary with an attachment, with 1 perk from each tier, and then we have 1 lethal grenade and 2 tactical grenades. So that's very standard, and that's the kind of basic thing that we're all quite familiar with. Now it's going to start to get a little bit more tricky. So right here, this is where we actually have our first wildcard introduced, and that's the wildcard that's going to be perk 3 greed. And you can see right there, it has 2 perks in tier 3, so I'm just going to go through it from the beginning. So you have a primary weapon, you actually have 2 attachments, which doesn't cost you a wildcard. Then have a secondary without an attachment, no perk 1, a perk 2, 2 perk 3s, and then 1 lethal, 1 tactical grenade. So you can see right here how you can actually kind of not get to one thing to get another thing. So the most basic thing here is that he's actually not got an attachment on his secondary, have another attachment on his primary. So right here we have another one. This is another kind of basic one. He's got a primary, he's got 2 primary attachments, and you can actually see that he's given up his 3rd tier perk just to have that second primary attachment right there. So everything else pretty standard. You've got the secondary with the attachment, perk 1, perk 2, a lethal, and then 2 tacticals. Here we get a little bit more complicated because he's actually got 2 wildcards in place. So firstly, he's got the sniper rifle, he's got that as his primary. He's then got 2 attachments on that first sniper rifle. As his secondary, he's actually got another primary, which means he's actually got the overkill wildcard in play. And he's then actually got 2 attachments on his secondary, which is another wildcard. That's going to be the secondary gunfighter wildcard, and you can actually see he's only got room for 2 perks. So he's got perk 2 and a perk 3. He's got no lethal or tactical grenades. So there you go, it's a little bit more complicated, and you can see how these wildcards are actually having a quite big effect on the class. Finally, and this is the kind of extreme, this is when there are actually 3 wildcards in play. He's actually got all the perk wildcards, so he's got perk 1 greed, perk 2 greed, and perk 3 greed. That's going to allow him to run around with 6 perks at the start of the game, but because he's actually had 6 perks, he's only going to be able to have a secondary in this case. He could actually have a primary, but he's chosen to go with a secondary, and that's all he can really get with his 10 points. So anyway guys, I hope you understand this a little bit more now. It's going to be a little bit complicated, and it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I'm going to be trying to make you guys familiar with this before the game comes out. I've got a really good idea for a series. I'm going to be giving you guys some of the suggested classes that I think are going to work really well, that I know are going to work really well. So really looking forward to that, probably a little bit closer to the game, get you guys all familiar with this new creator class system. So anyway guys, if you're still here and you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, it helps me out tremendously. Apart from that, make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Check out some of my previous videos, got a couple of those on screen right now. And I'll catch you guys with another video very soon.